We're only 6 games into the 2022-2023 regular season, but is it time to start asking ourselves, has Matt Murray already lost the starting job with the Toronto Maple Leafs? What's up, Leafs fans, and welcome back to another edition of Leafs Digest. Now, before the regular season started during the preseason, I made, well, you can decide if it's bold or not, but I made what I deemed at the time to be somewhat of a bold prediction that by the end of season, Ilya Samsonov would be the Leafs starting goaltender. Now, I was looking at a guy who was coming in here as an opportunity, 25 years old, former first-round pick with the Washington Capitals, to potentially jump into a starting position and fight for a job. We heard all these rumors that he chose to come to the Leafs on a one-year deal over longer term, maybe some more money with some other teams, because he felt like he was going to have an opportunity to compete here. The other thing is, you look at Matt Murray as his competitor, as the other goaltender in this situation. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, yes, he has lost it right away. I don't think he can do so through the first 6 games, but I will tell you candidly that I do think it's his job to win back now. It is Samsonov's position in the number 1 spot, given the numbers he's put up so far and with Matt Murray's injury history here. We're looking at a guy who's 28 years old. He's got a $4.68 million cap hit accruing against the Toronto Maple Leafs, a struggling glove hand that he's had for a while, basically was part of his downfall there in Pittsburgh. And you add on the injuries, you add on some of the self-confidence issues. Now, that was part of the transition period going to Ottawa, but still a bit of a project for this Leafs team. So, has Matt Murray lost his starting job? I don't think he officially has, but I do think he's going to have to work his ass off to try to get it back. I think that there's going to be good opportunity for them to compete for that number 1 job for the remainder of the season, but I think Samsonov at this current point in time is in the driver's seat. Now, let's compare these two guys. Through Matt Murray's 1 game played with the Toronto Maple Leafs this year, very, very, very small sample size, mind you, he has a 4.05 goals against average and an 8.26 save percent. That is 1 full game that he was able to play with this Leafs team. He did, in fact, lose that game. But Matt Murray was deemed, hey, this guy's going to be a project. We're going to have to work him back in here. We might have to deal with some injuries. And then it happens. Then he gets injured, and Samsonov, the load gets put onto him. So when I'm looking at Matt Murray, part of the thing that people are looking at is, well, what a joke by Dubas. What a incredibly stupid move by him in the offseason. I'm going to tell you, yet again, speculation. I understand, but I think that this Leafs team had some of this in their minds when they did this. Why did the Ottawa Senators only retain 25%? Well, first things first, if the Ottawa Senators retain more than 25%, this Leafs team that all the fan base complains they don't have enough picks, they don't get to draft enough guys, yada, 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 they don't get as much draft capital coming back in that trade. So the more percentage that Ottawa eats of Matt Murray's contract in that trade, the less we get back picks-wise, which also means less assets to trade later on if we go to try to move guys at deadline. Hey, we're trying to look for this player. Do we have the draft picks? Nope. Sorry, we got Ottawa to take too much cap. So there's the first part of it. The second part of it, I don't think that this is why they got the guy. I want to be very clear about that. But I think that when you have a guy like Brandon Pridham sitting in your drafting room, sitting in your management room, a guy that constructed the NHL salary cap, he is going to always have on his mind ways to utilize the cap to the best of their ability. So the more money that they were to have taken on from Matt Murray, the more they're going to be able to maximize their LTIR. The more money that comes in, the more money they have to pay him, the higher the cap hit is that they accrue, the more they can use their LTIR. They're using it to perfection right now. This is a team that is so smart at using that LTIR. They're able to call up numerous players. We saw it the other night in Winnipeg when they've brought up now Nick Robertson and Mete and Wayne Simmons and Clifford. You can utilize more players to your advantage because of the ongoing LTIR that's being used sitting there. So I think that that's on their mind when they trade for this guy. I don't think that they traded for him going, hey, he's going to be injured the whole time. We're just going to use him as an LTIR chip. But I think when they made that trade hoping, hey, on one end, he could be an incredible goaltender and we look like geniuses, or he could probably end up injured all the time like he did in Ottawa, and we're just going to throw him on LTIR and we're going to maximize that space. So there's another thing to think about there. Now, one thing I think is very interesting, and as I'm watching this progress throughout the beginning of the season here, I'm starting to feel more and more and more like the Toronto Maple Leafs had in mind the entire time that Ilya Samsonov would be their guy. I think that they were probably hoping for some type of competition to drive Murray and maybe become a very good backup to him, or as a guy who could be there for those injury games, or to just push him and push Samsonov to become the number one guy and actually elevate his game. You know how goaltenders can work, where one guy can feed off the other guy. They watch the guy go in there, play incredible, and then they use that to elevate their own game. So I think that they bring in this guy, Matt Murray. They say, hey, we're going to use him as a reclamation project. Hopefully things can turn around. Otherwise, he can be a great backup. But the reason I'm starting to think Samsonov could be the guy that they wanted as their number one all along, the guy is at $1.8 million cap hit for one season, and he chose Toronto on a one-year deal over other teams. Why would you do that unless there was some type of conversation had? Everyone always wants to speculate that part of John Tavares' contract negotiation was the captaincy. Well, if that is true, don't you think that this team may have promised Samsonov the opportunity to be the number one to come here? Hey, you're going to get the spot. You're going to get the positions. We're going to push you. We're not going to make it 60-40, 70-30, 55-45. We're going to make this as close to 50-50 as we can. And if you're playing better, you're going to be the guy. You don't also think that he might have looked over and the management might have looked over at a Matt Murray who's dealt with injury problems throughout his career and said, hey, you could take over for him every time he gets sick or he pulls his groin or he has an abdomen issue or an adductor, however you'd like to say it. I think that was built into the conversation when they recruited Ilya Samsonov. I think he looked at it and said, I'm going to have every opportunity to be the starter there in Toronto. And I think the Leafs management made sure he knew they would give him every opportunity for that as well. Now, here's the one thing I want Leafs fans to remember with this. If you're going to sit there and say, well, why did we waste the time? Why did we waste the money? Why are we wasting the cap space on Matt Murray, $4.68 million for this year and next year? Just take a step back and think about this. If the Leafs management had gone into this season, forget what Samsonov is doing right now. If they had gone into this season and your starting goaltenders were Ilya Samsonov and Erik Källgren, Leafs fans would have been outside Scotiabank Arena rioting. They would have lost their marbles at the idea of Samsonov and Erik Källgren being the goaltending pair. Now, right now, it looks pretty good. We feel pretty happy with it. I feel pretty comfortable. I'm looking at Samsonov, a 9.38, 1.73 GAA on the season, 4-0 record through his first 4 games in the Leafs, blue and white, and I'm thinking, man, this guy is a stud. He could take over. But if we went into this season as just Samsonov, the reclamation, and Källgren, the guy who just happened to get into games last year because Ian Scott went down, Joseph Woll went down, Jack Campbell, Peter Mrazek all went down, and then somehow he managed to become the third-string goaltender. If we said, hey, those are our guys, we would have been having a heart attack collectively as a fan base. So just keep that in mind before you start jumping to, well, why did they go get Matt Murray? Potential to use LTIR, potential to turn him around and look like absolute geniuses if it worked, and a little bit, in my opinion, probably wanting to save face. So, do I think Matt Murray has officially lost his job? No, I don't think he's lost it yet, but I think this is Samsonov's number one job for the time being. I think that it's not officially, hey, Matt Murray, you're done. You can't be the number one guy. But I think Samsonov is in the driver's seat here. As long as Samsonov can keep it going, can keep on this pace, or not on this pace, can keep close to this pace, or can keep winning games, keep looking steady, consistent, happy, healthy back there, I think he has the number one job for basically the remainder of the season as long as he can keep this up. And Erik Källgren, to me, is a suitable backup. You'd rather not have him in too many games, but I think this guy could push through and start to look a whole lot better. So, Leafs fans, let me know in the comments below if you think Matt Murray has lost his job. Let me know your thoughts on what I said about the trade, the LTIR, the cap space, Ottawa keeping all that percentage. Let me know in the comments below, and let me know your thoughts about Ilya Samsonov potentially being the number one goaltender for the remainder of the season for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Leafs fans, no live stream after the Vegas game, obviously, because that one will be real late, but we will see you guys very soon. And as always, keep believing.